The following program contains coarse language, a lot like real life. Viewer discretion is advised.
Oh, yeah. Starting the night off with a little bit of Deborah Magone. It's about money. And I heard that track for the first time on Brian Judah's show a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago, very recently. And I was blown away by it. I love the lyrics. I love the style. And based on that interview, and I had heard of Deb, she had been mentioned in a couple different elements because she was part of the original Rochester Free Radio group. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. But I am really honored to have her on. She's going to be joining us about 8:15, 8:20 or so, give or take. This is the joys of doing a live show. But she's got some really cool stuff that she's going to share. And for those of you that are playing the video game, version of the show. She does a Bonnie Raitt tribute band, and I tell you, she's got the voice and she's got the guitar skills to do it. So that's something that I'm looking forward to checking out. I really love her original stuff as well too. But we all know, especially out here in Rochester, New York, most of the places really they want cover tunes. Original bands are fighting the tide once again. Doesn't mean we don't do it, but hey, we all got to do what we got to do, and I respect Deb for what she's doing. The opening disclaimer, I call it the Judah disclaimer. It's the same disclaimer that I run on my WRFZ show. Yeah, out here, there's going to be language because there's no FCC up my ass. Gonna give me a bunch of grief. So F-bombs will be dropped. Fuckity fuck, fuck, fuck. Sometimes language needs to be what it is. I channel a lot of the George Carlin element, minus some of the complete disdain aspects as he got older. But some of it, to some degrees, I think was, as they say, part of his shtick. But he did truly have a lot of perceptions and a lot of, very brutal, honest reflections on the state of affairs around us, especially regarding American culture, which I suspect Deb and I will jump into a little bit because I looked at some of the stuff that she's into. And I know, and I heard it on the radio show initially. She was going to go into something, but because she was on Judah's show, I think she instinctively knew. She's like, okay, you know what? I cannot open my mouth here and go here. And I think she did that out of, not only respect for Brian, but also recognizing, because she had been involved with the radio station, there's certain things when, you're doing an FM broadcast show that you really have to be cognitive of. And sometimes it's simply not worth opening the door. That's just what it is. Something we'll get into, and I'll let her kind of explain that in her own words. So a couple of things I want to shout out here. I mentioned Brian shoot that. See, I'm already getting tongue-tied. And this is a side effect, I think I have fought every respiratory bug known to mankind over the past 2 months. It's just been absolutely, from COVID to the flu to whatever, other one, it just like, I got better for 2 or 3 days, bang, came back around again, got better for a week, bang, came back around again. And I'm finally just beginning to, but yes, the voice has been affected to certain degrees. I'm working on that. But hey, again, this is what you get when you get a live show. So as mentioned, I want to kind of shout out my brother Brian Judah, my brother Ed Contini. That's the three of us. Brian's the good, Ed's the bad. I kind of claim the ugly. I'm just that kind of wolf. We've got a new show Friday mornings, 9 a.m. to noon Eastern Standard Time over on Rochester Free Radio. Don't have a graphic promo quite yet. Brian has one that he was doing on Facebook, and I just fucking forgot to grab it. But we do have Doug Mack coming in, and he's going to do some serious artwork. He's going to do a custom T-shirt, stuff that we're going to talk about and get into detail another time. But I want to shout out those guys. They have shows over on Rochester Free Radio. You can learn more by going to rochesterfreeradio.com. Brian show Sundays 12 to 3, Rock to Rock. Ed show Over the Edge Thursdays 3 to 5 p.m. This Sunday I'm going to be on the show with them because it's going to be fucking off the hook. I'm going to get the language out of it fucking now because he's going someplace that I went many, many years ago. And my mother will remember this because I know she's out there. Love you, Ma. Back in my late teens, early 20s, I went through a definitive period of metal, thrash, punk, extreme, elements of things. So I did some of those early militia shows down in central New Jersey. Bands like Overkill, Stormtroopers of Death, Metallica, and others. So I can't talk about it because Brian's he's going to release it when he's ready to release it, but Sunday's going to be really interesting. So much love to them. Also want to shout out my sisters Ativia and Diane, a.k.a. Lily and Nona. They've got some really cool stuff, and they're building their stuff up, kind of expanding. Ativia just bought a new house. Her daughter's pregnant. So she's had a lot on her plate, but you can find more about them, facebook.com/Lily and Nona. Items created and curated into timeless treasures and handcrafted wonders with style. Shia did that one, by the way. And much love to my witch, Shia. She does a lot of the pre and post production stuff, the video work on the track. She even sings on one of the tracks that I did, Her Desperate Mind. All that stuff is, you can find it either on woldwolfmusic.com or on YouTube. I'm still trying to hold the line and just put things in places where it's free. But let me tell you, YouTube is a pain in the ass. Everybody just, as Deb's song says, it's just always about the money. You know what I mean? Just about the money. So we're trying to fight that side. Part of what we do over the radio station, part of what I do here. Yeah. And Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, that's right. Thank you for reminding me. Shia here on the channel does a bunch of her witch stuff, tarot readings, Reiki. Yes, Connie, that's life. Yep. That is what it is. So the best we can do sometimes is find ways to work around it. As has been noted by many people many times, complaining maybe feels good for a few seconds, but it doesn't necessarily change anything. But also conversely, ideas, concepts, direction have to start from somewhere. So I'd rather have the conversation. I'd rather be wrong for the right reasons. And ultimately, words don't mean anything without the fucking action to back them up. So that's why we're dancing over nonprofit radio stations, why we're doing a lot of the things that we do. I also want to, and again, there it is. Dancing with Witches, Monday nights, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday nights. Monday, 7 p.m., Wednesdays, 8 p.m., Fridays, 10 p.m. You can find more over there, ladyshia.com. Or you can check it out. Send us an email, wolf@oldwolfmusic.com. Another show that's coming up. My brothers and sisters with the Under My Skin for Life Foundation, Rock Against Dystrophy. It's going to be a benefit for Turbo, who passed last year. It's going to be March 23rd down at the BFW Post, Fort Monmouth, New Jersey. Yeah, that's Route 36 on your way down the shore. It's where the Arts for Autism show has been held for, I think, the past 5-6 years. Really great, cool place. A lot of great musicians. A lot of info will be coming out over the next couple of weeks with who's going to be there, but I'm not even going to dance into all the people that have been involved with this great cause for the Muscular Dystrophy Association. All right, so we're going to jump. And I want to keep this nice and simple because I gave her a specific time frame. And I'm actually watching my time this time. I'm going to try and be the professional wolf as best as I can. So I'm going to kick up another track from Deb. This is her cover of Turtle Blues. And then we should be back live.
I don't need no one me. used to. I never treated somebody like I should. Don't want to spoil them, you know. Well, now I once had me a daddy, said he'd give me everything inside. Yes, it is. Well, yeah. Once had me a daddy, yeah, said he'd give me everything inside. So I said, honey, I want the sunshine. He'll take the stars out of the night. Well, come on and give it to me, man, 'cause I want it right now. I ain't the kind of woman to make your life a battle. Not the kind of woman, yeah, to make your life a battle. Well, but if you just wanna go out drinking, honey, why don't you invite me along, please? I'll be so good to you, babe, I promise. I'm underneath this haunted shed. Like a child, yeah, I'm underneath this haunted shed. But you know I'm very well protected. I know this goddamn life too bad. Don't come and make it, you can come and heave it. I've been caught once myself, things are bad, don't show me. Don't come and make it, you can come and heave it. I've been caught once myself, well, honey, things are bad. But you know I'm gonna take good care of Deborah, yeah. And ain't no one gonna ever talk me down. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Little Turtle Blues.
So yes, Deb is joining me live now, and that was her cover of Turtle Blues. I see a couple people in the chat. They're like, "Oh my God, my music!" So obviously that track has touched a couple people. Why don't you start up, introduce yourself, and tell us why you chose that particular track to put on that album to perform?
Hey everyone, and hey Wolfie, thanks for having me. Yeah, you totally surprised me with that one because I was actually going to send it to you. And then I had a second thought, being a DJ, having been a former DJ, I thought, oh, maybe they won't be able to play, this one because it's not one of my originals. But anyway, I was a huge Janis fan when I was like 8 years old. And in Rochester, New York, I don't know if you were you raised here? No, you're from
No,
New Jersey.
I'm actually I'm from Jersey. I'm from Central Jersey.
Yeah.
Okay. Some of my family was from, Staten Island, New York, the old Italian analogy, you know how this goes. But I spent, I raised my son in Ocean County, Monmouth County, Asbury Park music scene for many years.
That's where my husband's from.
Oh, nice. All right.
He's from Long Branch.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Bruce Springsteen used to hang out in his family deli.
Nice. Yeah, we did some shows at, at the Stone Pony Headliner, some of those local clubs back in the day. And when he graduated college and, we had spent a couple of years, doing the shows, I had a job opportunity to come up here and he really wanted to do something different. So about a year before the pandemic hit, we moved up here to Rochester, and then the pandemic showed up, and then music ended. And
so you're
I'm a transplant.
You're still a newbie here.
Yes, I'm the new wolf on the block.
Yeah. Okay, so Rochester, New York is like one of the most creative cities on the planet in the sense, even Edgar Casey, psychic from over 100 years ago, a psychic to presidents, he said that Rochester was an energy vortex, just like Sedona and those other places. And I truly believe that because we have everything from science to art to music, all kinds of arts. I'm talking ceramics, fine arts, music arts. And you'll see a lot of, well, as you probably have noticed already, in Rochester, you go out at night and you see a lot of musicians playing out around town, and you'll ask them what their day jobs are, and like they're scientists, engineers, all kinds of plumbers.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong on that. And I do,
right?
I have really, I'm growing to really dig on not just the music scene, but like you said, the art scene. Like any community, any city, obviously has its problems, but, it's kind of like that trade-off element. You're going to have to deal with it no matter where you go. And I've been all over the country. It's in New Orleans, it's in Brooklyn, it's in Jersey, it's in Texas. It doesn't matter where you go. You're always having to fight some element. And this just really has, and, my son has kind of taken the same position, and, Shia, it really is the lesser of all evils at this particular juncture, and I've been looking at different points of the country and just, doing the kind of, pros and cons checklist, and Rochester is still coming out ahead.
Yeah. And you know how they say you can't, without doesn't exist and vice versa, right? Without positive, there would be no negative, you can't have one without the other. But anyway, I grew up listening to some awesome radio stations here in town. We had R&B, we had blues, we had rock, WSAY. I mean, as an 8-year-old with a little radio in my hand, I had access to the most amazing music, jazz. And when I heard Janis for the first time, it just blew me away because she was singing from her gut, and I just immediately was attracted to her. So I had to find out more about her. And I think Big Brother and the Holding Company, the first album with Turtle Blues and Summertime on it, I had to have it. And Turtle Blues was just so raw, and I think she wrote it as well. And a little aside, just to reiterate how important Rochester is. When I moved to California in 1982 and I hopped off the plane, I went looking for a blues club, because here in Rochester, we used to go out till 4 a.m. and listen to blues and R&B and all kinds of stuff. And I got off the plane in LA looking for a blues club. I could not find one. I could not find one in 1982. And they didn't start popping up till end of the 80s, when the yuppies, started the BB King clubs or started making.
Listen,
BB
you've
King
seen it
clubs.
like I have. It is so fucking weird how these odd little cycles pop up in different cities, because, during that time period in the 80s, I was kind of, segueing into the metal and the punk. I had the angst. I had the alcohol, you know what I mean? I could play the guitar, and it really was just, I think a generational dynamic. But I had grown up like you. I remember that album and the iconic, Crumb animations and everything, with that album, and hearing those tracks now by someone like you gives me a lot of hope. You know what I mean? Because some of the dynamics, they get lost. We know it. It falls through the cracks, especially, and we'll segue this in real quick, talk about the radio station. FM radio has been, it's 2 steps away, from death. It's being strangled since, online elements got introduced. Between that and
since the 90s, when they were allowed to monopolize and close down the small radio stations.
Yeah.
It happened under Clinton.
Yep.
He gave the corporations free access. Yeah. He gave them free access, unfortunately.
Yeah. So, trying to keep the element alive. But you were part of the WRFZ group there. And I'm going to throw this up for the folks that are actually watching at home, because I pulled this from your page. And this is a shot of you guys all in the studios before Slosh died. You got Brian back there. You got Steve Letzak. You got, Jeff Moulton kind of just floating in the wind like he does. And you're there with the peace sign. You know what I mean? and you can see, and listen, I'm going to be honest, and I've heard it from a bunch of people, okay, not to blow smoke up your ass, but that picture frames it. You were one of the driving energy elements within that station, and all of them really speak incredibly highly of you. You've done a lot of the promos that are still used, even though they have become outdated, which we got to get you back to redo all this stuff. I listen, I've been up Judah's ass hard. I've been like, listen, man, we got to go through all this stuff and, get it. But, Judah's a great guy. He truly believes in it. And, some of the dynamics, finally now within the station are starting to change. And we'll leave it at that, because you and I both know, this is the nature of any nonprofit organization, where you just basically have volunteers. You have a mishmash of personalities and everything like it. And, people doing their shows and, trying to get everybody on the same page is difficult at best.
It's herding cats when it comes to creatives. It's herding cats.
I like that analogy.
And it should be that way. I mean, it really is. Rochester Free Radio. I'm going to do it without the ID there. It's a blessing. Rochester Free Radio is a blessing. And when I was asked to come on and do a show, I was just so honored, because, like I said, small stations being closed across the country. And who has that kind of opportunity every day to get on the air?
Only in colleges. It was just some of the college radio stations was the only thing, I think, holding it together, especially during that into the beginning 90s. Because I remember it. I had friends, in between bands and stuff, and a couple guys that were DJing, commercially in North Jersey. I don't know if you ever heard of Lenny Block. He did a bunch of stuff between the New York radio stations, the rock ones over the years. A couple of guys that were involved at NEW and the Beatles programs back in the day. But you're right. There was a definitive switch, and FM radio, not unlike kind of 8 tracks, was just put on the block.
Hmm. Yeah, well, it's part of the agenda. When somebody is trying to take over a country, they start by taking over the media. And it's, here, it's happening at a slow pace, but happened. Same thing with cable TV. We used to have a great cable TV station out here in Greece, and I had a cable TV show out here. And then the Republicans across the country started shutting down cable TV because the meetings, the school board meetings, the town meetings, they were being shown unedited. And when they would ask the cable TV director to edit out this argument or that dissenting opinion, the cable TV director would say, no, this is public access. Everybody's got to see what's going on. The people that can't make the meetings. And boom, they get shut down by the Republican-run town or supervisor or whatever. But that is, it's part of the agenda. So it's
listen,
it's crazy. That's why
George Carlin talked about it for years. They don't want an educated population. They don't want us to actually have critical thinking skills and have access to truth. I think sometimes a lot of people are afraid, and we're kind of cut from the same cloth. I'm like, fuck that. I'm just going to call things out for what they are. I think this narrative of, fear mongering that, people are going to, it's just like, no, listen, truth is truth. We can agree to disagree, but certain things are what they are. They're historical fact. It's like trying
you can have your own opinions, but you can't have your own facts.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And there was a definitive change, and it wasn't just, again, framed in a narrative of just the right. The left was just as culpable. As you said, it happened under Clinton. It was big businesses. You know what I mean? It was the corporate structure fighting to take control of the systems. We know that ended up being culminated with Citizens United, where they basically, got a free pass in, and, it's like letting, the fox into the hen house. And we're seeing the progression of it now, because most of the problem, I think, is that there isn't a common framework of truth, of reality. Things are weaponized. Empathy now has
even opposing opinions.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's hard because one side is pointing the finger this way, the other side, you're either a Nazi or a communist. And it used to be back in the day that we could at least, again, agree to disagree. We had some middle ground, and I'll use this analogy because I think this is one of the most glaring and insane of them. We talk about the Constitution, we talk about the framework of rights, the right to bear arms, Second Amendment, First Amendment, freedom of speech and stuff. But when we get over to the right of a woman, choice of her own body, all of a sudden now we have a fucking problem. Now it's like, oh, no, that particular right is not, or the racial one, you know what I mean, where it took years to even get basic elements of simple things like, okay, we can all use the same water fountain. So it's a really wild double standard, that's kind of just randomly cherry picked and applied,
Of course. Yeah. And they twist it around to when it's useful for them, when the Constitution works for me, who is in power, that's great. I'll cherry pick everything that says I need to stay in power. But when it allows for freedoms of others to express themselves or to own property or to have a business or whatever, well, then we're going to change the rules so that it makes it harder for you to rise up and knock me off the throne. It's awful,
no doubt. I absolutely agree. And it's kind of, again, interesting. I didn't really truly begin to understand it until I was forced as a single parent to raise a child by myself. So now I had to look at some of the old narratives, the old conditioning, and my mother's words started coming back, and, we started having deeper, different, conversations about things. And some of it, I think, and again, just from the perspective as a man, goes back to that control module, the morality element, especially if you talk about something like abortion rights. You know what I mean? Because I don't think anybody can really debate it from the element of morality, because morality is based on the individual. Some people think it's cool to drop bombs on children. We can't have an honest conversation about that, because all of a sudden it becomes political, instead of just like, hey, can we just not drop bombs on children, period, regardless if they're from here, there, or anywhere?
Yeah. Well, the underlying pinning emotion that rules everything else is fear. And the people who are in charge right now are afraid. They're afraid to lose that paycheck. They're afraid to lose power. And they're control freaks. And they don't want
that's putting it
anyone
nicely.
else.
Yeah, right.
So fear is the underlying problem to everything that's going wrong, right now. It's all about fear. So that's the sad part. That's the really sad part.
Well, I think that should be it should be the follow up to it's all about money. To now it should be it's all about fear.
Yeah. And then it's all about love, because the people who do love this country, the globe, and love humankind, they're all running for office now. It's a wonderful thing. I mean, in 2018, a lot of people didn't pay attention that 1,500 women got elected to office across the country. They were so pissed off. It was a historical number of women. Most of them were probably in that Million Women March, like Olivia and I were. And people who never thought they would run for office ran for office and won. And there were an immigrant, there was LGBTQ, straight, transgender women, all won. They won.
And they're losing their minds even more, especially if you open the door on some of the, the sexuality elements. But it's starting to hit some pretty, kind of Orwellian kind of themes, like the one district out in Florida is like, okay, we got to pull the dictionary because there are sexual references in this dictionary. And it's like, holy shit, do we really have to debate a dictionary with all the other things around us? It's a dictionary that's the problem.
And that's a good thing to know that they're doing that so people can resist and fight against it. But there was another district in Florida that a lot of people don't know. There was a special election this past month, I think. It flipped a red district blue.
Too Democratic? Yeah, no, I saw that.
Because they had enough. And one by one, that's happening across the country as well. But yeah, these people that are trying to control others because they're afraid, they just got bigger microphones and they're louder and they're more obnoxious, and it's amazing. It's amazing.
And listen, let's be honest too. They have more money because they're now really being funded by these big lobbyist groups, by the oil industry and the pharmaceutical industry. And you and I both know.
The one Koch brother that's left, yeah.
Right. So some of this has been, at least historically, a pattern that, like you said, when you can control the information that people are getting and you can spin it and weaponize it, that costs money to get the airtime, to be able to build all those things. But also conversely, now with the internet and everything, information is much more readily available. And I also know one of the things you do, and before we jump into another one of your tracks, I'd like you to talk about, you work with children. You have, I guess, you're an educator. There's no other way to put it. I'd like you to describe it, in your own words, what exactly it is that you do within that scope.
I've been a teacher all my life, and I started teaching music when I was a teenager. I started in summer camps and worked my way up to, teaching at music schools, teaching privately. I never taught within the system because, I have my own opinions about how they restricted certain things. But however, all my life, I've just been teaching in different areas. I was an arts and crafts teacher because I went to college as an art major. So I did that alongside the music, whatever anybody needed, really. So now I teach more privately than anything else. I was one of the first teachers at the Girls Rock camp here in Rochester years ago when they started. So in different ways, I found camps or groups or schools, private schools to teach at with for, and now I do it on a private basis. I teach private music lessons. Oh, and I can't forget, I had a dojo for a long time, a karate dojo. I started teaching here at my sensei's school here in Rochester. And then when I moved to LA, I had my own karate school, and I had that school been teaching karate for over 45 years. It kind of ran parallel the whole time to my music.
So that's wild. So you're educated, you're a guitar player, you're a singer, you're a writer, you're a teacher, and you can also kick ass.
Yeah, I used to be a nightclub bouncer in Hollywood, at Hollywood and Vine at the Hollywood Palace, to pay the rent while I was pursuing my music career.
I did security work with a buddy of mine, Chris Miller, and we did a bunch of the Southern Rock circuit shows with guys like Marshall Tucker and Artemis Pyle, Charlie Daniels before he died and stuff. And yeah, it can be interesting, but it does tend to, I know a lot of musicians who've done that, who weren't, actively touring out with, A-list bands and stuff. And you and I both know that scene has its own consequences. I know a lot of these guys, over the years, it's destroyed their families, it's destroyed their health, it's destroyed their sanity. And, a lot of the illusions, I guess we'll call them again, within, rock and roll and the scene, they're starting to shift too. Like a lot of the newer bands, one of the things I really, really been digging on that Brian and then I've been trying to focus on, younger bands here in the Rochester area or the surrounding areas, be it, Albany or Columbus or, across the lake in Toronto and stuff. And there is a definitive shift from some of the elements that you and I probably really, saw and were exposed to, between the 70s, 80s, and even into the 90s, that they're a lot more mature. They're not as, hey, we're going to go out and get hammered and, live the Motley Crue lifestyle. I think they're starting to see some of the lessons from people that we've lost along the way, because of drugs and alcohol and some of the insane behavioral elements and stuff. But it still goes back, I think, to the conditioning. And you kind of, I think, were hinting at that when you were talking on Judah's show. And would you agree that, a lot of these dynamics now are reflective of conditioning? Because you worked with children and you understand, I think, better than most, not unlike a sponge, what you expose a child to is what they're going to reflect, pure and simple. They're not born racist. Mm-hmm. They're not born homophobic. These are not things that are natural.
Right. Absolutely. I agree. I mean, and like you said, what they're exposed to, what we were exposed to. I mean, we had commercials with actors in doctors' coats smoking cigarettes, telling people how healthy it was.
Yes.
So, yeah, everything has shifted. And thank goodness, a lot of things for the better. Thank goodness. But then, there's the other dark side of, the fentanyl and the opioids and things like that. But people got to understand they've got to be involved. They've got to be involved in their community. They've got to be involved in the voting process. We have to get civics back into the high schools. That was taken out in the late 90s, early 2000s, just to dumb people down. And so people got to get back involved.
Zappa talked about this. They were strangling civics out when we were in school. And it wasn't even required. It was an elective. You know what I mean? Yeah. So if you really, it was there at least, you had the opportunity, but it is, and I think it goes back to what you were saying about this systemic directional shift in controlling.
An agenda.
Right. The agenda. Yeah. Because my mother, I remember my mother, the first time I remember hearing my mother go off was at a PTA meeting, and we kind of weren't, supposed to be there, but we were kind of, outside there and it was just something stupid that, one of the parents had thrown out there. And my mother just, went off into a rant. It was just like, what are you, fucking stupid? You know what I mean? We're talking about children here. And some of those narratives, we're still fighting the same, I guess you could say, problems if not, again, cultural sores that we carry. You know what I mean?
Because it's like a bad bacteria. It keeps coming back, right? Like I said, there can't be good without evil. You have to, otherwise it wouldn't need to exist, But I do believe, the universe just keeps challenging us because, otherwise we'd be walking around like zombies every day, you know what I mean? Like Stepford Wives or something. So we have to have things that wake us up and get us off the goddamn couch and, turn off the TV and get out and go to a protest or even now you could be an armchair activist. You don't even have to leave your house. Make phone calls, get online, send petitions, make your voice heard online for free real estate where you can make your voice heard because the people up there making the laws on the Hill, they're the ones that allowed all the opioids to get shipped and en masse.
Right, like there was we went through the same problem in the 80s and stuff when we were talking about crack cocaine. It's like none of these communities grow or process cocaine. All the money that needed, to be getting it, from wherever it was to, LA or Harlem or whatever, they were funded by the banks. You know what I mean? So, these were not narratives that, again, like this stuff just fell off a fucking tree and then, all of a sudden, here it is. These were systemic and the powers that be knew what was going on. You look at Iran-Contra and, basically we were using drug money to finance covert operations. You know what I mean?
Unbelievable.
So
yeah.
There's a historical narrative, you can trace it back, into Vietnam where they use them basically to run, different types of funky, super soldier kind of tests. And, it's the type of stuff you think is only in a movie, but it's just like, no, that shit was real. The same analogy that they did to the Tuskegee Airmen, right. What we did to the American Indians. It's like, here's some alcohol and smallpox. Have a nice day.
Uh-huh. Exactly. Devious. That's why, good people everywhere gotta keep alert. You don't have to be afraid, stay alert, stay aware, and just, there's more good people on this planet and in this country than there are bad, or I should say more good people doing good things than there are people doing bad things.
Now that's beautiful. That's hopeful. Now, how do you feel?
It's the truth.
What do you think, and what's your perspective on how we can, I guess, as a society, deal with the problems, not only of misinformation, but what has really become, kind of a Kool-Aid dance. And you and I both know a lot of people who identify as quote unquote conservative. They're not Nazis. They're not racist and stuff. They just have, sometimes a little bit more of an old fashioned perspective, or again, it's reflective of their conditioning and stuff. How do we find that middle ground? Or is there really, do we have to go, full on, it's got to go all the way back to one end before it has any chance of coming back around?
I think we're almost at that one end, and it is starting to turn around because it's waking people up. But I always tell people, you got to tell your stories. You can't be silent online. You've got to tell stories, like the commercials that are coming out now of these poor women that are suffering and dying now because of the anti-abortion laws that are being put into law in some states. Someone has died, and probably more women than we've heard about. And we all know about the young girls that are being forced to give birth to their rapist babies, who happens to be their uncle or whoever, and others who have to travel to another state.
Yeah.
There's doctors in Texas that are gynecologists telling their patients, if you're going to start a family, you need to move to another state. I read this in an article. Doctors literally are telling women in Texas that. So the thing I'm trying to say is you can't just think it will go away without doing something. If you're silent, you're not helping at all. And I know that politicians listen to what people want. And I know when you make phone calls, when even they're still even on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, politicians are still on there and they see the comment sections. They read their mails, or at least their aides do.
Listen,
right?
I think a lot of them take it as a badge of honor, because I've looked at the behavioral patterns of some of these characters. And I got to tell you, again, I'm with Carlin. I don't have a lot of faith in much of the old guard on either side of the coin. You know what I mean?
Well, here's the thing. Like I said, they want power and money. Well, I have to say right now that the blue is the new green, right? They're picking up on all the things the Green Party has been advocating for a long time, especially the young blood that's going into the Democrat Party right now. And it's now mostly, I have to say, sorry guys who are listening, but the Republicans are in lockstep with each other, and they are just, the party is dying because they're not listening to the people.
Listen, I know a lot of people that have been diehard Republicans all their lives that are absolutely fucking disgusted with the state of affairs. They are just basically, listen, this is not real. This is not.
But they've got to do something. This is not patriotic. They're not standing up.
Listen, you called it. There is a fear dynamic. It's palpable. It's real. Really? Because so much of this has been weaponized.
Look at the Democrats speaking out that are getting their lives threatened every day, but they're not stopping. They're speaking out and they're trying to change laws. And everybody, I'm a green. I am not a Democrat. I'm not independent. I'm a green. And I'm just calling it like I see it. Back in the 2000s, I called both parties out for what they were doing. But things have shifted over the last 20 years. They have shifted. And so there's a lot more bad things going on.
Listen, I compare it to like the New York Jets. They've just been losing for so long that they figured out they could just buy the right players and somehow pay off the refs and get the thing. Because a lot of this stuff has been, again, especially culturally, it's been replaying. It goes away a little bit. It comes back. You know, my mother made the joke with me, you know, well, at least they're not wearing the hoods anymore. They're emboldened enough to come out and just be like, hi.
No, now they're just carrying tiki torches. Yeah.
Right. But also to some degrees, it has been the old fights, be it around racism, be it around sexuality, and also too around women's rights. You know, I mean, again, one of the things I didn't even know, because it's not really talked about or taught in school, you know, women didn't even have the ability to have a bank account until, you know, it was like 1970 or 71. You know what I mean? They had to have a mortgage or a credit card that had to have a man's name on it. It just to be able to basically,
since they were able to own property.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many things that we aren't taught, or, you know, kids need to be told.
You know, Martin Luther King was like, you know, like a paragraph and a half. You know what I mean? He was just like, oh, you know, he was a minister who fought for civil rights. And then it just segued, you know, into Nixon. And you know what I mean? Just again, from a historical narrative, unless you really go digging and you go, you know, to find that information, especially within, you know, the school elements, is, again, been systemically being removed. They're taking it away. No, please go ahead.
We have to make our kids and even adults, we got to get back to curiosity and questioning authority and asking questions. No fear. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Ask questions and read. That's so important right now. But everybody's like scrolling, looking at pictures, watching movies all day. And they're like, oh, you know, it doesn't affect me.
Everybody's
until it does. Yeah, until it affects them, and then they wonder, well, what happened? Where did that come from?
Yeah, I mean, they got a great beach. You know, they got a great beach view down there in Florida until the ocean comes in and swallows fucking everything up, and then everybody stands around confused, like, well, where did this come from? But just like, no, the ocean has only been here for, I don't know how many billions of years.
Well, one of the wonderful things that I love about the web is that You get to communicate with people from around the world, and even with people who are, I used to communicate with everybody when I had the time, the people doing bad things, asking them questions, what's it like where you are, and I would tell the story, my family was a union family all these many decades. And then now we can't have a savings account. Wages have stagnated for so long. They busted the unions and this and that. And you tell your stories, and I hear stories from people around the world, like, yeah, this island over here had to be evacuated because it doesn't exist anymore because the oceans rose and covered it up because of climate change.
Or a company like Union Carbide comes in and just, wipes everybody out because they can't be bothered with, safety elements or, anything realistic in their quote unquote business, which is basically, killing the rest of us. So, yeah, I mean, listen, as bad as we think we have it sometimes, it's a lot worse in other places.
Yes. And I just tell everybody, be curious, talk to other people, ask questions, ask them questions, and then share your story. Don't react so much when somebody, you see somebody post something and, start asking questions.
Trigger.
Why'd you post that? What's up? Like somebody will say, yeah, I voted for Donald Trump because of his policies. And then nobody ever asks what policies. Ask what policies and then see what happens from there. Because I do that all the time.
One of the commentators just said there are a lot of people who are comparing Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler, which,
yeah, I saw that.
It's one of those fine lines. I understand why some people may look at that, and it's easy to draw comparisons and narratives, especially when you look at attacks on free press
and what he's saying,
right?
And what he's saying.
Listen, some of it is just so off the fucking wall that it boggles at least my mind now. I understand back in the day, because he's a great used car salesman. He is the consummate bullshit artist.
Best.
You know what I mean? And he's been on both ends. He was a Democrat when it was cool to be a Democrat. And then all of a sudden, he became a conservative. Now, back in the day, most conservatives, you know what I mean? And, you go back to like the McCain years and stuff like that. They'd looked at a guy like that and be like, you're a fucking used car salesman, be off. Like all the other Jimmy Swaggarts, that just come in, God says I need the money so I can build a air-conditioned doghouse. You know what I mean? And whatever other bullshit they're trying to force. But that somehow
give us your money
it's
and
forgotten.
we'll go to heaven. Yeah.
It's like it doesn't even count
here's
anymore.
The other thing. Now, we have to remember, he's also a convicted rapist now. The dude is a convicted rapist. All right. The judge came out and said, this is equivalent to rape. So we can't just talk about him as just a con man anymore, because the dude's a bad guy.
You know what? That is a great and fair and honest point. And this is, again, and am I crazy? Does it appear that the more that kind of transpires, the more, the more frantic, the followers are. It's like they love him more. It's like that Jim Jones analogy. Did just like, I'm terrified of when he's going to be like, all right, everybody drink, then you're going to drink the Kool-Aid. Literally.
Yeah, I watch different shows, and they keep repeating that line. The more bad things he does, the more people love it. I don't think so. I know he's losing people. I know he's losing followers.
So you think that's just more kind of like the PR spin to distract against it?
Yeah. Yeah, we've turned into a National Enquirer society, and even the left-leaning shows are just, I hear Joe Scarborough in the mornings. He makes me laugh, so I watch them once in a while. But he'll be saying, well, I don't get it. I don't get the disconnect. Why aren't people, why doesn't anybody know all the great things that President Biden has been doing the last few years? So I texted him on Twitter. I said, at Joe Scarborough, because you've been pumping Donald Trump 24/7. That's why nobody knows. You guys, because it's a National Enquirer society now. Anything that will scare people, get people frothing at the mouth, whatever. It's ridiculous. So you gotta, how they say, believe half of what see, you have to look to hear.
I don't follow a lot of that stuff anymore because, like you said, it's become very obviously slanted on both ends of the spectrum. I still watch, like, I'll watch Bill Maher at least because I appreciate the comedic elements, and even he's been taking a lot of flack and bullshit.
A little weird. He's gotten a little weird.
Well, I mean, listen, to some degrees, you have to wonder why now I think it's become a little bit of pandering. Like, again, analogy, he did a thing with Elon Musk, and I'm saying to myself, 10 years ago, you were hanging this guy out for, the idiot that he was, just because somebody's able to leverage money and other people doesn't really make them anything more than, a manipulator, and I don't look at, people like him or a lot of these other, hedge fund types. And don't get me wrong, I don't begrudge anybody, to make a living, but if your living is basically centered around taking advantage of people, it's really hard, to take anything else seriously.
Yeah, and why is he giving him airtime? There's a lot of great millionaires out there doing wonderful things. Why does nobody hear about them? Why?
Well, I think some of it, like you said, is the apathy, and these aren't, popular things. People don't want to be told that, hey, guess what? The current state of affairs, your meat's going to get more expensive because this shit's unsustainable. And it's not even about being a vegan or anything like that. It's just like we are destroying elements because so much of this factory-oriented processing is absolutely destructive. We're destroying the land. We're destroying our health. I have friends in other parts of the world. They don't eat dairy or cheese and stuff like that. And they don't have some of the health problems that we do as a culture because for years we've been told, dairy's good. It's part of the food pyramid.
Oh, it's terrible. And
now we know it's just like it's fucking poison.
Has been classified a carcinogen by the World Health Organization. That means it causes cancer. Red meat. So, and we should be hearing more about that. That came out once in the news, and that was it.
Oh no, it had to go away because it's an obvious it's a satanic communist pedophile agenda being run out of a pizza parlor in Rochester, New York.
The land of addictive substances because it's whatever. It's all about money. Once again, back to the song. It's all about money. They don't care that you won't live past 60 if you keep eating this American diet.
Of course not. Then they don't have to pay out on Social Security. They can fucking go use the money someplace else.
Yes, that's something else they're trying to get rid of. My dad had the best saying, Deb, stay healthy. It's the best revenge. And he meant best revenge against the government killing you with all the things that they're selling you. So, it was the best comment, the quote that I loved from him.
All right, so
among others.
We're coming through top of the hour. Let's segue back into your music. Don't get me wrong, this is great stuff and we can come back to it, but I don't know how much time you have to commit. We can take it as long as you want. That's the beauty of having my own show with no corporate attachments or I have to, answer to anybody. But I do want to...
Corporate masters.
Yes. Listen, again, some things die hard. People ask me, and it's just like, you're going to be 56 years old. Don't you think you should cut your hair? I'm like, fuck you. You know what I mean?
God.
I'll channel David Crosby, or I'll channel George Carlin, or I'll channel Arlo, or sometimes, I'll go even deeper. I'll just whip out a little Iggy Pop and just, you know what I mean? And, but it's also, the irony of it too. I'm also, an educated person. So they expect, they're like, oh, you must be stupid. And then, just like, okay, we can debate these things. And it's like, you want to get into the quantum physics of this? And then it all just goes completely
well, you just
out
call
the
them
window.
out for who they are. Why are you such a control freak?
Well, some of this, again, I think goes back to the illusions that are created. I took some shots at it last night, things like, the fitness industry. It's just like, you too can have a beautiful body like this and stuff and dun, 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 and for only $19.95 a month over here at this gym. And you and I both know it's a bunch of bullshit. It's not really about people's health. It's creating this really weird, you have to look a particular way, you have to act a particular way, you have to dress a particular way. And if you don't, you're not part of, the beautiful people. And so much of that is destructive because it's not attainable for most people. For most people, it simply isn't. Doesn't mean they can't eat healthy. Doesn't mean they can't live healthy and enjoy those benefits. But the narrative of that ever-changing goalpost of what is beautiful, what is this, is, again, at least I think humbly, it is an illusion, and it's a dangerous one.
Yeah. Oh, don't get me going on all the stores that are turning into.
Oh, I'll get you going. That's why I wanted you on. Listen, I knew these are all the things that you weren't going to be able to do on the radio. I'm like, I'm going to bring her out here and just make her go fucking nuts and just say, hey, you're free.
Yeah, you know all my
Say
triggers.
whatever you want.
You know all my triggers. I hate shopping.
See, I don't even know you.
There's no
but
more
that's
good
great.
clothes anymore. You walk into a store and there's nothing but sweatshirts and sneakers. Nothing. There used to be so many cool, creative, beautiful materials and colors, and everybody could dress as uniquely as they want. Just picture in your mind the 60s where everybody was unique. Everybody looked different. And now they want everybody to dress the same. It's insane. And I remember one year looking for a red dress one year. It was probably about 10 years ago. I was looking for a red dress for a music video, for my Cleanup Woman music video. I couldn't find a red dress anywhere. And I thought, it's probably because all the clothes are coming from China and they don't like women. I think this is what I read. I read this somewhere. It's a color of empowerment. And they don't like their people, everyone wearing red unless it's like a special holiday or, something like that. So,
well, I mean,
I don't know if it's true. You can look it up, but
in fairness, I think Mary Queen of Scots might disagree with the whole red statement type of thing because it really is about perspective. And I say that jokingly because you're right. Red has had a bunch of weird connotations throughout history, especially in relation to women and, we'll just call it fashion. I have no concept of fashion, so I'm just like, I'll stand there looking stupid and just agree with you because I know better than to argue against it. However, I'm going to pull up a track. We're going to play something real quick, and I want you just, if you could, give us a little bit. I'm going to pull up Queen Bee. Why don't you tell us where that one came from?
Queen Bee came simply from my name. Deborah means Queen Bee in Hebrew. And I was a little frustrated at all the King Bee songs out there, Albert King and Stevie Ray. I said, I got to write a Queen Bee song. So that's where it came from.
Just that simple.
That simple.
That's beautiful. No, listen, that's actually really cool. Most times, and you and I both know, we tend to, they'll be deeper, more convoluted. I've interviewed people where they'll spend 20 minutes going into all the semantic elements about how the song was born and this and means this and goes on that. And you're just like, yeah, you know what? I was tired of you guys getting all the fun. So I said, fuck it. I'm gonna make one of my own. That's great.
I try to balance it out. I have my more serious songs.
Yeah, no, we'll talk more about it.
Like, this is fun. This one's a fun one.
All right. So we're going to cut to that and then we'll be back.
I'm your making honey. Well, what can bees like you? No one gets it flowing, honey. Honey like you do. I know, queen bee, baby. One just buzzing round all day long. Won't you let me just wrap my wings around you, and I'll never do you wrong. See, I love making honey. Well, welcome bees like you. No one gets it flowing, honey. Honey like you do. I know, queen bee, baby. Oh, just buzzing round all day long. Won't you let me just wrap my wings around you, and I'll never do you wrong.
Oh yeah, Queen Bee, really cool tune. I really been digging on the blues elements that you have been using, and you know, I'm not gonna lie, as a guitar player, it really is refreshing, you know, having some of those old elements reframed into, you know, they're traditionally, you know, accurate to it, but you put your own style, you put your own spin on it. Like, you know, again, I can hear the elements of like Bonnie Raitt and, you know, Janis and others in your vocal qualities, but I can definitely hear like Stevie and, you know, others in your guitar playing. So how about we start at the first end? When did you start playing guitar? What brought you to guitar originally?
I think I'm kind of ADD, I guess. I wanted to do more than just stand at a microphone and sing. So I felt like I needed to play guitar, but I also wanted to be able to accompany myself when I sang, you know, as a kid. So I wasn't allowed to take guitar lessons, but my brother was. So I would steal into his closet, and when everybody was out of the house, I would go in his closet, grab the guitar, and run into my room. I had got books from the library, and I would teach myself a few chords. And I put the guitar back one time and it fell over and the neck broke off. It was like a big acoustic. It was a concert size acoustic guitar. So I saved up my allowance, and my dad glued the neck back on the guitar, and my brother wanted to continue with his lessons. So I had saved up my allowance, and I said, I'm going to get myself a guitar. And I asked if I could exchange my brother's guitar, turn it in for a trade-in, and they said yes. So I was like 11, and I went with my girlfriend to the House of Guitars. This is like 1971, and I walked in, and the dolls that they are, they gave me an amazing deal. I didn't have a lot of money. And so they gave me a Gretsch acoustic guitar, Sunburst, with hummingbirds on the scratch pad, and went home. I turned on the TV, and there was an Elvis movie on. It must have been a Saturday afternoon, because that's when they used to show the Elvis movies. And he had a guitar just like and in one of the Hawaiian movies, and I was like, it's a sign.
Yeah. No, I know the analogy. When I first started playing, it literally was an old harmony that had been sitting off at the side at my grandparents' place. And according to the story that my mother told me, it was originally my uncle's guitar, and, you know, it was just one of the ones that wasn't, you know, really used and sat around for a long time. So she had somebody kind of, you know, get it functional and stuff. And that thing had like the worst fucking action on it. But, you know, I let me tell you, it toughened my hands. It made my fingers bleed. But, you know, after a while I had calluses. And, you know, at that time period, you know, my mother was very active within the folk old time country music scene. She had a big oversized Goya, kind of like Richie Havens, like that yellow.
Wow.
And that thing too was just a beast, but it had such beautiful acoustics. So between those two guitars, and we would just, you know, go, and I would follow the old timers around. I just, you know, guitar, you know, and especially with the Goya was probably bigger than I was. So it's just like, you know, this long haired kid with this big oversized guitar, you know, just following the old guys around. And that's how I learned. I learned by ear. Now, my mother had, you know, put me into, and I had, I guess, the inclination toward music. So I played trombone in the school orchestra. I played tuba and French horn as well too with the marching band. But the guitar
I played trombone for, or what do you call it, horn for like 2 weeks in the Blue Angels. I quit after 6 weeks.
but I had a lot of different music exposures and elements and stuff. But guitar was where my heart ended up, you know. And once I started playing the guitar, that was it. Everything else I stopped playing, you know, with the marching band. I stopped playing with the orchestra. I was just like, no, guitar. And it developed. Now, were there any particular guitar players or bands specifically, you know, besides obviously like Big Brother and the Holden Company has a very unique guitar sound, but I don't hear that as much in your style. I mean, don't get me wrong. Obviously, in the tracks of hers that you guys cover, you do try and capture it, but I don't see that as your guitar influence. Like, you definitely have a little bit more Stevie. You have a little bit more of the Texas blues, I would call it. But I also, I hear the folk country influences in, you know, how you do a lot of your chordal patterns and stuff. So somewhere along the line, somebody stood out to you.
Yeah, but you know, I feel it was like whatever my mood was, because before I played the Beatles, huge Beatles fan, John was my favorite, you know, playing the guitar, the songs, the melodies. And then that's when I started going into Janis, Joan Baez, Joni Mitchell, and then Bonnie came into the picture. And then it was like Led Zeppelin, right? I loved the way Jimmy Page, we have this in common. He loves taking the old blues tunes and rocking
putting them into new dynamics and stuff. Do you like playing with some of the odd tunings? Because that's what I learned. Because I was a big Page fan, and also from David Crosby. I started playing around with all these crazy guitar tunings and open tunings.
Still love them. My band members hate me because, well, not my current ones, my former ones, because I'm always playing in different tunings. Even now, I still play in different tunings.
Oh, that's great.
You can't get some of the same sound.
No,
you know?
And especially if you're talking about an acoustic piece, there's certain elements within how the strings will resonate. And obviously, depending upon the guitar, the wood, the acoustics, there's a bunch of different variables, but different tunings create different, I guess, effects. You know, it's the same analogy, you know, playing a mandolin or a 12 string, you know, you have a little bit different elements, not only within the tuning, but how you will play certain types of chordal patterns. And it also allows you a lot more freedom. You know, I've noticed this, like you have, I think from a style element, from what I've seen from your video performance, you definitely have a little bit more Nancy Wilson in you, you know, and I mean that as a compliment because I can see the same type of energy and focus in your playing that she did, you know, within Heart. You know what I mean?
Yep, Heart was an influence as well. Yeah, absolutely, Nancy's an amazing guitar player. But I also listened a lot to the old blues tunes. I went to the library, got old Smithsonian recordings, and yeah, it's just, I mean, on my CDs, there's quite a few songs in open G. Vocally, that's one of my favorite open tunings. And when you play the slide, it's a lot easier playing the slide in an open tuning, of course. But now with the Bonnie Raitt tribute band, I don't have a roadie like she does to run out and give me a different tuned guitar every song. So I play all her stuff in standard tuning, except for maybe one or two songs that we're going to have in our 3-hour show. But yeah, it's a whole lot more fun playing slide in the open tuning, for sure.
And slide guitar is not easy. You know, this is not a dynamic unless you're a guitar player. It's, you know, like speaking Greek to most people, or like Sanskrit. You're speaking a dead language that just has no absolute, you know, relevance to the person. But slide guitar has some very subtle elements that, you know, require really the ability to hear. It's not like, you know, you and I both know a lot of technical, quote unquote, guitar players that can do, you know, crazy scales at the speed of light. But the nuances of not just, you know, things like slide guitar, but a little bit of that jam element to be able to improvise outside of, you know, standard time signatures or, like you said, standard key phrasings and stuff like that. That's where they get lost. They just literally, they're in the deep end of the pool and they drown. But
I say that about blues in general. I had no idea until when I was younger. I went out to see this, you know, really good rock guitar player sitting in on a blues song and noticed, damn, he can't play the blues. Damn. I thought everybody could play the blues, but it takes a certain feeling. It comes from your gut and your heart.
And you have to have some direct exposure to it. Like I got lucky in my late teens. I spent a little bit of time because living in central Jersey, the New Brunswick scene really had a deep blues element that had kind of carried over from the late 60s. So Sonny White used to play down there all the time. And his harmonica player worked at a taxi place that I also worked as a dispatcher. And she was just like, listen, kid, you need to learn some fucking blues. You're coming down. So she used to track me down there and I would sit in these guys. And that's really where I learned how to play blues, to be able to anticipate and work off of. And, you know, he was incredible. You know what I mean? He was genuinely a loving, very humble, wasn't one of these people that's like, oh, you know, I'm a guitar god. And, you know, he genuinely wanted it to carry on and to pass it on. And you're right. There are certain subtleties, but you have to be able to hear it. You have to have an ear, especially with,
you gotta feel it.
Yeah.
You gotta feel it with the blues. I mean, that's the other thing about Rochester. Like I said, I'd go around with my little radio, my little tiny radio, pocket radio, and I was hearing all this R&B and blues on the radio. And then I would go to the concerts at what used to be called the War Memorial, the Blue Cross Arena. And Humble Pie was my first band concert. I think it was 71. And it's also where I smoked my first joint. But I don't smoke anymore.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I do. It's my only vice. I'm a smoker. I gave up the alcohol years ago, but the smoking is about the only alternative I have to pharmaceutical narcotics. So I'm just like, you know what, fuck it. I'll stick with what I can control.
Do brownies instead, because smoking is bad for your lungs.
Yeah,
but anyway, I did the alcohol and all that too. And I know I had people that were dying around me, and I just said, that's not going to be my life. But when people like Humble Pie came, I say Led Zeppelin again, the most influential rock blues bands that you sat there and you could just feel it like in your bones. That's what turned me on when I was freaking 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. And that's the kind of music that I really felt. And I love the straight ahead rock stuff too. I do. And Rush, oh my God. I used to play Rush in my band all the time. We were a 3-piece. I was singing
Oh,
Getty
listen,
and playing Alex on the guitar.
I'm a huge Rush fan, but I was also, during a period of those years, also experimenting, with things like, David Gilmour, Robin Trower,
my God.
a lot of Jimi Hendrix. I was more, I love the Beatles too, but I was more of a George Harrison fan. I loved the subtleties of the weird chords and patterns that he would do. John was great. Don't get me wrong. I loved him, but George was always, and I've always had this kind of, I like the Shadows a little bit. I'm not one of, like, I don't do the Eddie Van Halen thing and, run around in crotchless pants. And I can't do it. I want to go in the zone. I want to play the music. I don't give a shit about anything else. But, there are, again, even within rock and roll, like you said, you can hear when somebody has a blues element. You know what I'm saying? Because, the rock and roll was born of that. You look at Clapton, you look at Page, you look at a lot of the, classic rock guitar players, and they all came from blues backgrounds. You look at Keith Richards, Nancy Wilson famously, and, she talked about it many times, and she still talks about it, the diversity of her influences, it wasn't one dimensional. And you can hear that in a lot of her, writings, her compositions and stuff. And, it doesn't matter if it's acoustic or electric, there's always those subtleties, those little hints, if you know it, that you can pick up on.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I think, that's what I try to do with my music. It's got to have a meaning. It's got to have substance. You got to feel it. If I'm not feeling it, I'm not going to play it. That's all there is.
You played something live that Sunday when you were on Judah's show, and correct me if I'm wrong, and it was the piece where it was a little bit more of a spoken. You definitely you shifted the vibe. I think it was called Cougar.
Oh, It's a Sin, and I call it my Cougar song. It's about a mature woman making eye contact with a young buck walking down the street.
Now, again, the way that you did it,
I left you speechless.
No, because, well, listen, I'm not going to be that asshole and go for the low hanging fruit. You know what I mean?
No, you were imaging. You were seeing it in your head.
But well, no, listen, the way you performed it was powerful. Out of everything you guys played that day, that one came across incredibly powerful because you channeled the energy. Like, it wasn't just you singing a song; it was you creating the atmosphere. You put it all together in just the way that you shifted not only your voice, but it's hard to put into words. That is one of the subtleties again with musicians when they have certain stylistic elements, and the way you did it, I was just like, wow. It was
Thank you.
It was very real, and it was entertaining, obviously in the dynamic. You're a good guitar player, you're a good singer, but it had a little bit extra. So why don't you tell us again, you have the Bonnie Raitt tribute that you're doing now. Where was that born out of?
It's crazy. I love the magic of the way things work out. Okay. Almost 6 years ago, let's see. Our first full gig is April 5th. It's going to be our first full show at the Lovin' Cup. I got to preface with that. And it'll be almost 6 years ago to the day. It was late March, 6 years ago, when I was asked to perform with a group of wonderful female singer-musicians here in Rochester to do a Bonnie Raitt tribute at the Lovin' Cup. And I said, yeah, I'll do it. And I did, 2 or 3 songs. The place was packed. It was standing room only. I got a standing ovation. And I got off the stage and all these people came, just came running at me. Where are you playing next? We want to hear more. Blah. And I thought, holy crap, I better do something with this. And so since 6 years ago, at a slow pace, I've been attempting to put a Bonnie Raitt tribute band together. And this is my third attempt. The first 2 attempts just didn't work out. I won't go into details. But this attempt, oh no, hang on.
No, go ahead.
You still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Can you hear? Okay, my earbuds went. This third attempt, finally, a group of guys, they're amazing musicians. They are ready and chomping at the bit. They love the music because her music is not simple. Her songs are pretty complicated.
Yes, they are.
They're not a walk in the park. And we're loving it. So that's where it was born at Love and Cups almost 6 years ago to the day of our first gig coming up in April. And I was going to say something else. Oh, yeah. I sent out emails to a couple of clubs. And Love and Cup was the first one to get back to me and book a gig. So I didn't do it intentionally, in other words. I didn't go after Love and Cup intentionally to be our first place to gig. It just, as the universe would have it.
They expressed interest. I mean, listen, that's the nature of what we do. And you know as well as I do that the whole club performance scene has, seen better days. And I'm not gonna put anybody on flash and throw out names, but it's very difficult. It's difficult for bands to get shows. There's not much, if any, money in a lot of this stuff. So, the illusion element that, hey, you're going to get rich. You've been doing this for a long time. And you know what I mean? You really have 2 options. You either sell out to a kind of prepackaged, element, or you do what you do because it's what you love. And if you make a couple bucks along the way, great.
Well, I have to say now, it is easier to make money at it in the sense that if I could get myself in the habit of doing live performances on social media, I could be making some bucks. I'm just like, I'm an ambivert, so it's a hump that I'm trying to get over.
Okay, no, that's honest.
I did a live stream from the B-side a couple years ago. I had 600 people listening in from around the world. So there is a way to make money at it. You just gotta, you gotta know what's at your fingertips. And a lot of people, a lot of musicians, aren't tech savvy, so, but they're getting there. They're getting there.
Yeah. The tools are becoming more available and the learning curve is, slowly coming to a reasonable framework, but it also too, and, organically, live performances, in clubs and, bars and stuff like that has always been, the go-to template of, hey, getting out there and playing live shows.
Yeah. And I commented on somebody's post the other day. They were saying something about musicians would have to perform 2,000 times a year in 365 days to get paid, not even close to a living wage. But I commented that if people, now this goes back to voting, it all goes back to being, involved. If people voted for politicians or candidates, whatever you want to call them, that supported small businesses, that supported labor, that supported the arts, it would be like in the old days where they made enough money to pay the bands at the end of the night. They had contracts. I remember when we had contracts with local clubs.
Yeah. Yep.
You didn't do a gig until you had a contract. But then, businesses started, having a hard time because of all the, so many, the taxes, or whatever the exact reasons are. I never owned a club. So
right. Between the liability insurance and the licensing to be able to serve alcohol, you know what I mean? It is not something that is easily accessible. It's not like the days of the Fillmore East where, you can just, throw something up there and, everybody would come out and have a great time. And, you had artists and poets and musicians and all these cool things coming together.
Yeah.
Now, I do still have hope, and I think Rochester definitely has the potential for it, because you see it.
It
You
used to
see
be
it.
amazing here.
You see it
It
still
used to
hanging
be.
on.
Yeah. Now, but yet they go and give all kinds of tax breaks and subsidies to Target and Walmart and all these chain restaurants that are popping up in every city,
Or fucking
replacing
NFL football
family-owned
teams that will
restaurants.
spend, billions of
Exactly.
dollars on stadiums that you have to
Exactly.
pay hundreds of dollars to actually go and use.
Exactly. So it's messed up, and that's why people got to vote. You've got to be aware of who you're voting for too. So, but anyway, yeah.
Would you agree that it also is reflective? And I know, there's been a lot of stuff going on with, like places like Live Nation and other promoters where, the price points have become absolutely ridiculous. When I had Doug Gray on and we were talking about it from his years with Marshall Tucker, he refuses to do shows that are above a certain price point. He will not subjugate his fans to paying some of these ridiculous dollars, even though, a lot of these places insist, oh, yeah, Doug, you can get the money. Doug's like, fuck that. I've been doing this for too long. I'm not going to do this. Do you agree with the analogy? You know what I mean? Because I saw something online and very similarly, it's ironic. There's a cover band that's going to be playing in town. And again, I'm not going to throw them under the bus, but they're charging, upwards of, $120, $140 a ticket for
cover band.
for basically a tribute band. And, it's not to say that they're not they're not a good tribute band, but I think personally, and again, and maybe I'm just getting fucking old here, but I think at some point, you have to call this stuff out. And I know it goes both ways, because I know guys who play in name bands that are just ego mongers. Okay. They just are, you know what I mean? They think their shit doesn't stink, and they think because they got a little bit of fame or a little bit of attention, or we're in the right place at the right time, that somehow that justifies, taking advantage of people. And I think it's a bad precedent. And I think it's part of what has been strangling the local music scenes, because it's the same thing in New Orleans. When I went down to New Orleans, I was talking to guys, they're having the same problems. Memphis, my buddy Tom Hampton, he's struggling with it. You know what I mean? And he's played with Poco and Tucker and a few others and stuff.
Oh, I love Poco.
So,
I was trying to think of their name the other day.
So there are elements that are, they're happening all over the place. It's not exclusive to, one city. I think it is part of that corporate dynamic, like you said, that you have a handful of companies and so-called promoters that really, they don't give a shit about the music. They don't give a shit about the people.
No. The other part of that is if they're offering like free puppies and a light show and dinner,
No,
that's different, right? But if they're, if they're not putting out for that price, that's not right.
And I mean, it's even more ridiculous.
The other end of the
No, go on, please.
The other end of the spectrum too. What bothers me is that people who go out, musicians who go out and play for free, when they should be valuing themselves more and not be playing for free and ruining it for other musicians who should be paid. Everyone should be paid for their work.
It's a fair point. See, I do like what Steve Ball and the Dogs do. Most of the stuff that I do, if I go out and I perform in a charity context. It's for autism.
Yeah, that's different.
It's for veterans or something like that. But I get where you're going, where bands will just basically be like, hey, I'll play here. Because I know that was one of the things that was happening at the Stone Pony for a little while. And when we were doing shows there, they had changed that and said, okay, listen, we can't, as much as, they caught a lot of flack from the local music base, and people stopped going. They weren't going there for it. So, there is a case to be made because it does, it poisons the well. So a club will now look at this and it's like, oh, well, I don't have to pay anybody.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So
and it's the culture here in America. They've given artists a bad name. We provide a service. That meme you see all the time. What, you're going to get a plumber to come out on a Saturday night for 3 hours and pay them $50? No, we provide a service. And we work hard at it. We spend a lot of money on equipment. We spend a lot of time rehearsing, writing, putting a show together.
Yeah, I mean, a 3-hour show is usually an 8 or 9 hour production when you talk about setup and breakdown and everything else in
and more
between.
rehearsals.
Well, yeah,
and
that's not even
investment.
getting into the outside stuff. I'm just talking about in any given. I mean, a 3-hour show. There's a little bit of production elements that will go into that. You know what I mean? You got to get all the equipment back and forth. You got to get lights and sound set up, and there's
and the cost of all that.
Yeah.
Cost of all that. Yeah. Hey, is it okay for me to ask if any listeners have any questions to put it in the chat?
Absolutely. Listen, if anybody has any questions, feel free to throw it out there. A lot of times with my show, people will go back. I archive everything in YouTube. So
awesome.
it'll be available for people to go listen and check out. I have been fighting, even though people have been telling me, you got to put this, you got to put it on Spotify and put it on this. And I'm just like, I don't want to put it on a paid service. I struggle with it. You know what I mean? Because I don't do it for the money. And I respect, like, your position and your point is valid. I just love to play. I love to make music, and, I'll do, stuff that's, a little bit more, from a remote element, because some of the guys that I work with, they're in other places in the country. So and we started doing it during the pandemic because couldn't do any shows. So we were like, okay, hey, listen, we can do all this stuff remotely and track stuff and release it, and it still at least be making music and not going insane. But I guess, to some degrees also too, is like, I have an incredible distaste for dealing, with the bullshit and the pay to play elements and, all the other ugly, things that are really, again, preventing music from happening.
Yeah, that's what I was going through when I lived in Los Angeles, because it hit there before it hit here. When I moved back here from LA in 2002, there was still decent pay to be made at local venues. And then the pay to play started catching on here, and it was very sad. Very sad.
But it also reflects, like you said, the elements now of the business, especially when you look at what it costs to run a place. I've talked to Randy down at the Montage, and, he's been doing it for many, many years. And, he was very blunt and honest. It just, every year it gets more expensive with, taxes and liability insurance and alcohol licensing. And then obviously whatever suppliers you're using, there's just so much into it. It just, again, you can see it. And I saw it.
Ask him who he voted for.
Oh, listen, I'm not even going to try and have that. If you know Randy, that'll segue into a 2-hour diatribe. And I love the guy. He's a great guy. But I can see it's taking the fun away for him.
Yeah, and that's what kills me, because a lot of these business owners, they vote against their best interests. They think, if I vote, for the corporate party, they're going to give me breaks. Well, no, not you, sucker. They give their big corporate buddies the breaks, not you. They want you out. They want a big corporate venue taking your local business's place,
That's a great point, too, because again, more and more you're seeing, especially post-pandemic, a lot of places didn't survive, and it wasn't just Rochester. It was all over the place, right?
Yeah, they weren't supported. But guess who got all the tax breaks and the subsidies? The big corporations. And now you drive through town, city after city, and you see the same stores in every town and city. No more local. I love Fairport. This is why I love Fairport.
Yeah, I've been really digging on. I've been digging on Iron Smoke. We went over there a month or so ago and saw Hollowell. They did a show with the Interloop blog, which was a comedy group, and it was really cool. It was like, the first half of the show was comedy, second half of the show was live music. They did a great job, but I was really impressed by the attitude of everybody down there. And we're going to be doing Slosh Fest over there. We're not really going to talk about that because it's not supposed to be talked about yet, but I'm finding, again, hope in some of the smaller places out there, and they're by no means a huge place. You know what I mean?
No.
But they were very open. They're like, listen, you guys want to do this? Here are some dates we have available. And they were just like, come on down and do it. Like, no bullshit. No, hey, We need, the pay to play dynamic. They were just very happy to be engaged, and they're like, community elements and stuff like that. So I was just like, cool, that this is a place I can get behind. And, granted, sometimes it's a trade-off. So yeah, you're not going to do a bigger show, but we even saw, like what last year with the Lilac Festival, that the bigger shows are becoming problematic around here sometimes now. What happened at the Armory? You know what I mean? The Armory's probably never going to do a show there again.
Well, that was a catastrophe awaiting to happen.
Well, that was stupidity. Let's call that shit for what it is. That was fucking stupidity. Like, in what reality? And I mean, again, especially from people who supposedly are professionals. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. I wouldn't trust these characters to make a peanut butter sandwich after the shit that they pulled out there. But it's been happening across the country. It's not the first time we've seen these types of problems with the medium to bigger sized venues just really cutting all the corners.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and packing them in beyond capacity. Yeah, you're just waiting for stuff to happen. Yeah.
So let's cut to a track real quick. I'm going to play, I think we're going to go to Rain Rain. What can you tell us about that one?
Well, Rain Rain is another lighthearted tune, and it was a rainy day here in Rochester when we first moved back. When we first moved back from California. Well, actually, it's gotten a lot less than when I was a kid. But I was looking out the window, and I was thinking of that. I think it's an English traditional, rain, rain, go away, don't come back, just stay away. And I thought, I need to flip that around into like a sexy, fun kind of come play with me in the rain kind of song. So this is my rain song.
Nice. All right.
And it's in open E tuning, in case anybody wants to know.
Ooh, a little bit of inside information. All right, so we're going to cut to a track, Rain Rain, and then we'll be back.
Rain, rain, go away. Don't come back, just stay away, 'cause I wanna play with you. Rain, rain, you're just so wet. Sun's gone home, but I just bet that you wanna play with me too. You're just so sweet, I lay awake at night, thinking of ways to hold you tight, counting drops of rain on my roof just right, thinking of you till the morning light. Oh, rain, rain, go away, don't come back, just stay away, 'cause I wanna play with you. Rain, rain, you're just so wet, sun come home, but I just bet that you wanna play with me too. Swept me off my feet like a thunderstorm. You made my heart skip a beat, made me win. wish for snow in the summer heat. I got a craving for you, 'cause you're just so sweet. Oh, rain, rain, go away. Don't come back, just stay away. 'Cause I wanna play with you. Rain, rain, you're just so wet. Sun's gone home, but I just bet that you wanna play with me too. Rain, rain, cool me down. Get so hot when you're around, and I gotta say, it's true. Rain, rain, you're just so wet. Sun's gone home, but I just bet that you wanna play with me too. Da 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 da.
So yeah, we're back live. I apologize about that. We're talking awful, while the track is going, and I'm not even paying attention to the times or anything. Because, listen, and again, all joking aside, you've done radio before. You're a musician. You're a singer. So it's very seamless for you. It's very natural. And, I've been very vocal about this. You were a great asset for the station. So any way that we could, even to small degrees, get you back involved would be a huge asset in the things that we're doing, even if it's just, finding ways to cross promote and, get some other shows going out here. But like you said, it's about the money. You have a life, you have a family, you have all those other things you have to take care of. So, it has to be the priority for you.
Yeah, bills, and mama needs a new pair of shoes.
Listen, it ain't easy out there. Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my show. It was called All in All, and it was a little bit of politics, a little bit of metaphysics, a lot music, and Karma Corner was one of my pride and joys. It was just helping people to find ways to live a better quality of life, and spiritual intuitive readings I was doing. So it was
my girl does readings as well and stuff too. We're working a lot with Mythic Treasures. They've got a new location over in Henrietta and Sioux, trying to kind of
that's great.
Restructure the fairs and things. When I first moved up here, one of the first things I did was over there Village Gate to the Mythic Treasures Fair. You know what I mean? Because I've always danced in, those circles as well, too. So there are a lot of really good common elements with, where we're working things. Ativia, as you already know, she's very much into that. Her and Diane are, doing, craft creations and, magical type of stuff in conjunction with it. So we're finding ways to bridge some of the elements, not only between business, but, within communities. And obviously as a nonprofit, we have to dance within those restrictions, but it also gives us some really incredible freedoms. You know what I mean? We're not beholden to a corporate sponsor where we can't say this or can't say that. The FCC says we can't use specific language, right? But you and I both know, anybody who knows anything, you can interchange words.
Yep. And that was part of my mission statement with the show, was no corporate masters, and it is to be valued. That's a gift to have a radio station and a show nowadays where you do not have any corporate masters. And that's why, people, community involvement, support the radio station, donate whenever you can, is hugely important. And that's why I called my show All in All, because it was a little bit of everything and showing how everything was interconnected, So that was a joy for me. It really was.
It's something we'll have to talk about on the back end, because I know you still record periodically some of the promo stuff. You did the promo for the Lorena
Yeah.
McKenna show. I was the one who produced that, and Moulton was like, "Here, give it to me, and I'll take care of it." And then all of a sudden, there was a female voice, and I'm like, "Who the hell is this?" And I didn't even. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't even know who the fuck you were. I was just like, "Okay." And then everybody started telling me the stories, and really, all credit goes to Ativia, because Ativia sat me down. She's like, "Let me tell you the ballad of Deb Magone." And she, and I mean, literally, it was a Sunday afternoon, and she went, and Ativia. She was straight on the mark. She didn't pull any punches. She was like this, that, but she spoke incredibly highly of you. She's like, she's one of the good ones. And, she was one of the others also too, said, losing you from the station was definitely not a high point. We'll put it that way. You know what I mean? And, it just is what it is sometimes.
Thanks for sharing that. And I could say the same about Otivia. She helped me a lot with home care with my dad before she was involved with the radio
I wasn't going to go there because
so.
it's personal, but yes.
Yeah, no, she, is like a little sister to me. So yeah. But thank you for thinking of me, and I will definitely,
absolutely. So listen, before we close it out, is there anybody you want to shout out? You want to mention the shows? Anything you want to throw out there? Shows, promotions, shout outs? This is.
I just want to shout out to everybody and thank everyone for listening, and thank you for having me on. And I'm going to full disclosure here. I'm going to be campaigning to get you back. Not just so much here, but on one of our shows over at the radio station. Maybe get you to sneak in and, do a 15-minute karma segment or whatever, or even just to get you to come back and perform It's a Sin, because I really dug that. So when's the next show that you're doing? We're making an appearance at Iron Smoke Distillery on February the 15th for Steve Bartolotta's All-Star Jam. We were invited to come up and do about a 6-song set, and it's going to kind of be like a little coming out thing for our band, a little sneak preview of what's to come.
Now, is this
go to my website.
Is this the Bonnie Raitt stuff?
The Bonnie Raitt Tribute Band. If you go to my website, DeborahMagone.com, DeborahMagone, and go to my event, click on the event thing in the menu, take you right to my calendar. The calendar is going to be expanding this year. Our first full show with Bonnie Raitt Tribute will be April 5th at the Loving Cup in Henrietta, New York. And Deborah Magone Band will be coming out soon after that.
So you're working on some stuff, aren't you?
I'm trying. I'm getting old. I got to get it all done.
Toss that shit right out the. Listen, we're both still younger than Keith Richards. So until fucking Keith Richards bites the dust, we're all good. It's gravy. It really is.
Jagger, they're my inspiration, man. If they can do it, so can I.
No doubt. And especially, listen, again, you're very vocal, and I see you. People can also find you on social media, Facebook and stuff. You're very vocal about health elements and stuff, about living healthier, thinking healthier. I mean, these are things I would love to have you come back and explore a little bit more, because I think they are important conversations, because, our quality of life carries over into anything else, especially in music. Like, I've written really dark tracks, and they were, cathartic and therapeutic, but I would rather be able to not have to, squeeze the demons outside of myself. You know what I mean? And listen.
Squeeze the demons. There's a song title right there.
Right. I actually have a track called Demons. But, and again, it was just my little shot at organized religion, because I came up in the Roman Catholic Church. So, I open up the song, about, all the stories that they told us were lies, and, stealing our dreams. That's a whole other
conversation right there.
Well, that's why I got to have you back, because these are conversations that need to be had.
And I had a near-death experience with severe ulcerative colitis. So that's one of the reasons why I'm so focused on, you are what you think, and I really promote that a lot. But yeah. Next conversation for sure.
Well, you believe in the dynamic, like I do, and a lot of others, that energy has many different forms. So even from the emotional dynamic, when you marinate in negative energy elements, anxiety or resentment and bitterness and all these other things, it will have a physical toll. It's not unlike, being exposed to radiation. You know what I mean? You may not see it, smell it, or see it, but the effect is palpable.
There's a physiological, there's a physiological response to stress. And we could absolutely, that's in the next conversation for sure.
Cool. Very cool.
Important.
Listen, thank you so much again. It was really a pleasure. Again, you can find her on Facebook and social media. Check out her website. If you're up here in the Rochester, New York area, she's got some shows. Definitely something worth checking out live. And
coming back out.
Listen, and feel free. Anything that you got going down, shoot it out to us. We will be, Judah and I are going to be redoing the go-to station play. The files where, when we have the dead time, it's playing some obscure 80s types of tunes. And I'm just like, we got to redo that and start, putting in the Rochester bands, And don't get me wrong, I play a lot of commercial music. I'll play anything from the Butthole Surfers to Frank Zappa, Tucker, Metallica, and I intermix it with the local bands and stuff because that's what I enjoy doing. You know what I mean?
That's what I did too.
I was never a quote unquote professional DJ. I'm a guitar player. I'm a musician. I'm a performer. I'm a writer. I'm an engineer. I'm a teacher. I do those things. So when Ed Contini was just like, hey, come on over here and do a radio show, I had already been doing a podcast for a year. So I'm just like, you know what? And he's like, it's a nonprofit and we're doing all this. And I'm like, all right, I can get behind this. Then I got a home studio, so I don't have to go sit down there, and dance with it. I just like, I can sit at home comfortably and just remote right in. And that's one of the other things, that we can theoretically set up for you. So that way, maybe it makes it a little bit easier for you in producing stuff. We're building a new studio, as I mentioned to you, over at Ed's place to not only record music, but to be able to produce and, do shows from, because, as well as I do, the time variable is always the hassle, especially, when you got family and, you got professional aspects, we all got to make a buck to pay the bills. So it's not always easy to be able to, to go down, drive out, get behind there and run it. So,
well, that's why I did my show from home. I produced and edited and everything from my house.
Nice. Okay, cool. I didn't even realize that. I thought you were doing like Steve Litzak and a lot of others. They go in and they do their shows live at the station.
Yeah, no, I did it from home.
See, great minds think alike. That's why I do it too. I'm like, I'm doing it from home.
Yeah. Whatever you need to do to make it easy and comfortable for yourself, is really important. So, anyway, it was really wonderful.
Listen,
Thank you
it was
so
a
much.
blast. We're going to close out, I think, I'm going to close out with Forever. You want to give any final words before I clack that one?
That song came to me in a dream. And after that song came to me, it took me 4 years to finish because every time I tried to finish it, I'd start to cry. But what happened after it came to me in a dream, I recorded on a tape recorder what I had of it. And then I went to see a psychic at a psychic party. A girlfriend had a psychic party. So I went to the party and the psychic told me, oh, you and your husband have been together many lifetimes. I'm thinking, oh yeah, come on. Like I haven't heard that before. And then she goes, no, you don't understand. She says, you don't understand. He's been watching you from afar all these lifetimes. And this is the first lifetime that you've come together. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's good. That's really good. And then she said, and he's not coming back next lifetime. And I'm like, holy shit, are you kidding me? Oh my God, I couldn't have invented this. I couldn't have, you know what I mean? Anyway, she was very good. We became friends after that.
Listen, you and I both know when something like that, when it speaks to you, it's a organic connection in the moment. And, you can't bullshit your way around it.
No, and it was the most amazing thing. So anyway, from that point on, we became fast friends. She taught me how to do destiny card readings, which is like so amazing. But that's another conversation. So then I finally finished the song. And the recording that you're going to play was the second recording. And Tony Gross is actually playing the solo on this version, because it was like one of the last songs to record on the CD, and I was exhausted. And I said, you know what? I want you to play this solo. And he did a beautiful job on it. And it's about reincarnation and losing someone that you love.
Great way to close it out. Deb, thank you again so much for taking the time. I look forward to having you back, and I look forward to seeing you perform live. We will definitely see each other soon. Again.
Thank you, Francis.
Oh, no, listen, it was my pleasure.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. Good night, everyone.
So yeah, that was Deb Magone live with us. And instead, I'm going to close that out with her track Forever. Next week, I'm going to have Heather Salome, the vampire witch, on. She's going to go deeper into some of her experiences and philosophies and her trip. She went over to Avalon, quite literally, in December, flew across the ocean, spent some time in the mist, and it's got some interesting stuff to share with us. So next week, 8 p.m., Heather Salome, Vampire Witch. Again, Shia will be back on tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Dancing with Witches. She's going to be doing her free Tara, Reiki, and all that groovy stuff. I'll be back Friday morning, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly on WRFZ. So a lot of cool stuff coming down in 2024. Thank you again all for joining us. Special thanks again to Deb Magone. And until next time, remember, take what you need, leave the rest behind.
Forever together, forever you have been my friend. The lifetimes that we have spent together, I don't know. I love you, I want you more than you'll ever even know. Forever together, oh how I miss you so. I can't begin to tell you how you've made my life so good till now. I've loved you forever, and now it's time to go. There were times I thought that this would never end. Please say you'll find a way so we can be as one again. Yesterday I had you here. Today you're gone, but you're still near. My memories, just like the sun, shine with me always. I feel you, I see you, I know you're here with me right now. Stay with me, lay with me, please give me strength somehow. I wanna hold you right now and never let it end. Please help me find a way so we can be as one again. on. I had you near, but now you're gone. If there's a way, please hear me say I'm yours for always. Forever together.